On this episode of The Local Feed, Leah of Soulfire Farm teaches us all about the eggplant.
It is one of the top 3 vegetables in Ghana, Togo, and Benin.
Chef Gabriela Alvarez, kitchen manager for Soulfire Farm's Black Latinx Farmers Immersion program, demonstrates how to make peanut stew.
What we'll do is we'll just let it really cook down, let the vegetables soften.
Devin, executive chef at The Corner at Hotel Tivoli, took us on a mushroom foraging adventure, talks mushroom farming, and made an amazing mushroom dish.
It's all about the mushroom.
It's all coming up on this episode of The Local Feed.
Funding for The Local Feed has been provided by your contribution. Thank you, and the following. For more than 30 years, CDPHP has provided healthcare coverage in upstate New York while working with local communities to encourage preventive care, healthy nutrition, and an active lifestyle. CDPHP, a plan for life.
Field Goods, local produce delivered weekly to workplace and community locations, helping people change the way they eat while supporting small sustainable farms. field-goods.com.
At M&T Bank, we understand that the vitality of our communities is crucial to our continued success. That's why we take an active role in our community. M&T Bank is pleased to support WMHT programming that highlights the arts, and we invite you to do the same.
The Troy Waterfront Farmers Market, bringing nearly 100 local farmers and fresh food vendors every Saturday 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. year-round in downtown Troy, supporting local farmers and food producers in and around the capital region.
Our region is home to an incredible bounty of stunning foods, lush farmland, and dynamic chefs. Join us for The Local Feed as we meet the dedicated farmers who care for the land and harvest the vibrant foods we eat, and meet the talented chefs who design outstanding seasonal dishes inspired by the food that surrounds them. Hi, I'm Mary Gribulis. First up, we visit Leah at Soulfire Farm, who shares some of the amazing projects that they're working on and harvest some of the first eggplant of the season.
My name is Leah Penniman, and I'm a farmer and food justice activist here at Soulfire Farm in Grafton, New York. Soulfire Farm is a people of color-led community farm, and we're committed to ending racism and injustice in the food system. The way we work on that is by 3 main projects. The first is that we run a 7-acre farm using Afro-Indigenous sustainable farming methods, and all the food that we produce goes to the folks who need it most in our community. We especially center refugees, immigrants, and people impacted by mass incarceration. And we deliver that food using a CSA model, which is a subscription. Folks who are members receive a full box of fresh veggies and eggs and chicken every Wednesday right to their doorstep, and they can pay whatever they can afford for that food. We also have educational programs. We train several hundred Black, Latinx, and Indigenous farmers every year through our Black Latinx Farmers Immersion program, our youth programs, our apprenticeships, and our workshops. And then our final and third project is community organizing. We work regionally and nationally to change unjust laws that disadvantage farm workers and make it really hard for people of color to access lands. And we also run a regional reparations project, so people can transfer land and resources to folks who've been marginalized in the food system. Eggplant is indigenous to sub-Saharan Africa. It is one of the top 3 vegetables in Ghana, Togo, and Benin, where my maternal ancestors are from. So I lived in Ghana for several months, and the eggplant, specifically the garden egg, the white eggplant, is in almost every dish that you would eat. You can eat the eggplant, this particular variety, raw or cooked. Most commonly it's in stews, but it's also baked or just chopped up and eaten fresh. And the leaves are edible of this eggplant, and the leaves are really nutritious. We grow 3 different varieties. We grow the collared eggplant and the garden egg eggplant. So the collared eggplant originated in Asia, but moved into Africa well before colonization. And so it was naturalized in West Africa and came to the United States via that, as well as the Louisiana long green. I think one of the great tragedies of industrial agriculture is the reduction in the number of varieties of vegetables and crops that we eat. And so all of these crops have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of varieties, and many of them are being lost because industrial agriculture favors uniformity. You know, every single eggplant needs to be this size and this shape and, you know, exactly perfect for the mechanical harvesters. And so we lose a lot, not just in terms of our cultural ways, but also disease resistance and climate resiliency. When you have many varieties of potatoes and eggplants and tomato, some of them will survive climatic change and pest outbreaks and others will not. But when you rely only on one variety, you have what you have with the Irish potato famine, which is, you know, a single fungus comes in and it will wipe out all of these genetically identical crops. And so we do try to plant many varieties of each crop. So we have over 100 varieties of food just here in this tiny farm. A few of the crops I'm really excited about include Molokhia. Molokhia is a spinach from East Africa that grows really tall. It has succulent, rich, tasty leaves, and it's just packed with vitamins and minerals. It's considered a superfood. In a similar vein, amaranto or amaranth is often thought of as a weed. It's called pigweed around here. It's a crop that is sacred to the indigenous people of what is now Mexico. And you can eat the seed. The seed is one of the few complete proteins in a grain, but you can also eat the leaves, which are rich in vitamins, minerals, riboflavin, niacin. So the entire plant is edible. I'm very excited about the Moyamensing tomato, which is growing in the high tunnel behind me. While tomatoes are indigenous to this continent, this particular tomato is sacred to African American people. The variety came out of the prisons of Philadelphia and was prepared by the cooks and smuggled out by the chefs in the prison out into the community. So we keep that variety alive and we save seed for it, which is distributed through a friend of ours who has True Love Seed Company in Pennsylvania. Something that happened when Black folks were kidnapped from West Africa and taken across the Atlantic, we didn't have a lot of the greens that we were used to, like Molokhia and the green of the eggplant, and so the brassica family came in to take its place. So collard greens, in particular, are sacred to African American people, and greens form the basis of our food pyramid. They're the most important vegetable for us. And so we grow a number of varieties of collards here too. So those are originally a European crop, but popularized and used by enslaved Africans in the South. Well, I started farming when I was 16 years old. I've always had a really close relationship with the natural world. And I got a job at the Food Project in Boston when I was 16. And from that very first day of picking cilantro and having the smell of that sacred crop linger in the creases of my fingers, I was completely hooked on farming because it's an opportunity to both take care of the environment, but also to focus on social justice and human rights. And I've been farming ever since. When my partner Jonah and I moved with our 2 infant and toddler children to the south end of Albany, we were living in a neighborhood under food apartheid, which means that no matter how motivated you are or how much resources you have, it's really impossible to get fresh food. So there were no farmers markets, no grocery stores, the community gardens had no available plots. And so what we did is we joined the DSA, which was really out of our budget range, but we were grateful for the vegetables. And we had to walk over 2 miles to pick up that share. Experiencing how difficult it was to get fresh food for our own children really motivated us and catalyzed us to create a farm that would provide that food to people who usually would not have access because of unjust policies. Eggplants cross-pollinate, they rely on insects, so we need our honeybees and ants and moths and butterflies to help us keep eggplant alive. They do produce flowers, and once the flower is pollinated or fertilized, then the fruit comes out of where the flower once was. So eggplants are fruits, really, botanically, even though we think of them as vegetables. They're a hot season crop, and so they need to go out well after the last danger of frost. So for us, that's late May that they can go out into the ground. But we start them about 4 weeks ahead of that in the greenhouse. And so by the time they go out in the field, they've already had a head start in a nice heated and protected greenhouse, and then we put them on the black plastic for additional warmth. There's so many concentric circles of community here. We have our amazing farm team, so I want to shout out Letitia, Demaris, Ceci and Olive and Larissa, who grow the food that we distribute and who take care of this land. We also have Amani, who helps me with the programs, and Jonah, who's built all this infrastructure, and our kiddos, who have their hands in all of it. And so that community is really an intentional community where we live and work together, and in many ways it's a marriage. And then we have our wider community of Albany and Troy, and then even beyond that, regionally with the Northeast Farmers of Color Network, and nationally with the National Black Food and Justice Alliance. So community means primarily accountability to what we say we care about and what we purport to do. Those are the folks that help make sure that we don't drift away from that mission of providing fresh food to those who need it most and working to create a food system that's just and sustainable and fair for everybody. Something that we're doing here is really catching up to ourselves. So we're not looking to greatly expand the number of people that we feed or acres that we cultivate or folks in our program. We have, in a grand total, about 4,000 people who participate in our programs, and we're a tiny staff. We're about 5.5 full-time equivalents on a relatively small piece of land too. And so we're trying to catch our infrastructure up and our practices up so that we're not doing all of this at our own expense or depleting ourselves as we go or depleting the land and the resources as we go. So my hope is not so much to grow up, but really to grow out. And what I mean by that is we now have over 600 alumni in our Black Latinx Farmers Immersion. We have thousands of alumni in our youth program. Is really supporting them with the resources and love and encouragement they need for their own projects.
Next, Chef Gabriela Alvarez of Liberation Cuisine and kitchen manager for Soulfire Farms Black Latinx Farmers Immersion Program takes that freshly harvested eggplant and makes a peanut stew.
Hi, my name is Gabriela Alvarez. We are at Soulfire Farm, and today we are making a peanut stew with fresh eggplant that was just harvested this morning by my friend Farmer Leah. And we will start by making the peanut butter with some peanuts and peanut oil. Peanuts go in, and then we go in with our oil. I'm using a peanut oil to maintain that flavor. So we've got like a smooth peanut butter here, which is perfect for something like a stew. We're gonna start chopping our vegetables, which will go into the stew. We have potato, we have tomato, we have some onion, and some garlic. So we'll chop it all up. Now we will go in with our garlic. You can see that I just kind of chop off the end here and sort of pull the first layer of skin off so that I can easily get in with my fingernails. The next thing we're gonna do is chop up our ginger, and a really nice way to peel ginger is just using a spoon. And I'll go ahead and just chop this. Great way to think about ginger is that it has grains. Cutting with the grain is an easy cut. So I'll cut it in half to get it flat. And then once I have it flat, I'll again cut with the grain. So now we're gonna go in with our vegetable of the day. Eggplant, we have a calliope and a Galen eggplant, and we'll just use one of each in the stew. We'll just prepare our spices. So I have a little bit of cumin and coriander and turmeric already ground up and ready to go. And then I happen to have whole peppercorn and whole clove. So I'm just gonna grind those up quickly so that I can have everything in a powder form. So we'll put this all in here. So we're gonna go ahead and start cooking up our delicious stew. So I'm gonna go ahead and add just a little bit of oil. We're gonna go ahead and start with our onions. And I like to add a little salt right at the beginning with onions because the salt helps pull out water, which will help them really break down and become soft. And this is the part of the cooking process that I actually really don't like to rush. Rather than putting everything in, this is where we're really developing the flavors of the dish. So allow each ingredient to really have its moment and allow those flavors to really sink in. And now we'll go ahead with some ginger. I'm gonna go ahead and add our spices that we ground up earlier. You can already see the color coming in and the smell. And at this point, I'm gonna turn the heat down just a little bit. Now I'm gonna go ahead in with some tomato paste, and I'll add in about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of water. You can also use a vegetable broth, a meat broth, bone broth, and I'll bring the heat back up now that the water's in there, and let these flavors really marinate. Now we're gonna add our peanut butter that we made earlier. We're gonna add a hot pepper. This is called a buena mulata. So we'll add that right in, and then we'll add our vegetables. Again, we have tomato, potato, and eggplant here. You could add really whatever kinds of vegetables you like and that maybe are in season and that you have access to. And then we'll go in with our potato. And what we'll do is we'll just let it really cook down, let the vegetables soften. And at this point, I'll add another pinch of salt to taste, and then we'll just let it do its thing.
Now, Devin Gilroy, executive chef at the Corner at Hotel Tivoli, takes us mushroom foraging, talks mushroom farming, and makes some magic with mushrooms.
My name is Devin Gilroy. We're at 99 South Street in Hudson, New York at the warehouse, where I have a mushroom farm called Tivoli Mushrooms. Tivoli Mushrooms started in Tivoli, where I'm a chef at Hotel Tivoli in the Corner. It began with me, really my dog is what started this business. I would walk my dog and I'd find mushrooms, and so I found an oyster mushroom for the first time, like 5 years ago. And it blew my mind totally to kind of go a little bit deeper, being a chef for over 15 years and working at a restaurant in New York City called Chanterelle, where David Waltuck was a pioneer in French cuisine, and I was fortunate enough to work for him, and he would prepare mushrooms, and it was something I always really loved. I was working in New York City. My sister and I, who helps me with this company, we grew up in a restaurant family. My dad has restaurants, and I moved to go and learn and cook and be in the great restaurants of New York, and really worked out to be like 12 years of cooking there, to the point where I had opened restaurants. An opportunity came about upstate, and I moved up here to open Hotel Tivoli in the Corner. What we know of as a mushroom is actually the fruit of a larger organism, which would be the mycelial body. When you find say like an oyster mushroom or a maitake or chicken of the woods, that is an expression of the life cycle of the mycelium. So that mycelium has colonized that tree, the earth. It could have a microsymbiotic relationship with a tree growing out of the soil around it, like a chanterelle. So really what the mycelium is, it's a cloud, essentially, like a cloud that's microsymbiotic, like a chanterelle, relates to that oak tree. And it gives to the oak tree, and it takes from the oak tree. But it doesn't damage its host. Mushrooms are an entity that colonizes a substrate or an area. That's what we're doing here. We're confining a substrate to a plastic bag with a set mix of ingredients, mainly American hardwoods and grains. We add our mycelium to that bag, and it colonizes that bag. And then, just like in a tree, where that mycelial body, as it is consuming that tree, when it reaches the, say, the bark of a tree, and then it has that oxygen exchange or light exchange, it sends a signal to the mycelium to fruit. What I've been looking for in this, in farming, is freedom. That's my goal. My goal is to grow food, support other people, to support my family, and my sister works with me, my mother's involved, Tommy, who's doing the construction here, they're all part of this. So I think for me, it's to give us as our own little group the opportunity to be creative and grow something, like literally and figuratively, and set an example for other people about how do you build an organic solvent business. We're going to make a very simple pasta with black trumpets, a Meyer lemon butter, and good pecorino. It's a very simple preparation. You start out with good pasta. I recommend Marcelli, and it leaves a great tooth, which is really the most important part. Cooking pasta, the expression is dell'anima, which means of the soul. So when you bite the pasta, there should be a little white speck in the center of the pasta. That's when you know it's really good. We've made some Meyer lemon butter. It's a really good European style butter, over 90% fat. And then we've sweat out shallots, cut the shallots small, and sweat them out in a little bit of olive oil until they're translucent. And then we take those shallots, we add them to butter, and then zest a good amount of Meyer lemon rind into it, which gives it like this beautiful aroma. A good dollop of this Meyer lemon butter, and a little bit of salt. Your pasta water is basically the most important part of making a good pasta is utilizing your pasta water. It'll help you emulsify the butter. It'll help you adjust your sauce as you're marrying it to your pasta. So I'm gonna move these guys back here. Once you get around that point, you can see all the orange zest in there. It's very generous. We're gonna take our black trumpets that we just foraged. We're gonna add them to our Meyer lemon butter. We rinse these just a little bit, just to make sure that they're good to go. And then we'll add a little bit of sea salt. Like we did before, with everything you add to the pan, you add just a little bit of seasoning. And as you can see here, the black trumpet, the color of the black trumpets is starting to bleed into the pan. It's really starting to give it a nice, rich mushroom quality, which is really what you want. It's all about the mushroom. We're gonna make this pasta with 4 ingredients. It's the butter, the mushrooms, the pasta, and the cheese. So utilizing a really good pecorino, something that's not too salty, and then using the right grater. Yeah, it's really good. Using the right grater, maybe like something that's a little coarse, will help you get the right texture on the pasta. We grab our pasta, kind of take a look at the pan. You can see that there's still a little bit of sauce. We're gonna just loosen it up a little bit, turn up the heat, a little bit of pasta water, just to help you kind of emulsify everything. A little bit of rich, really, really nice olive oil. And then it's all about activating the starch of the pasta. So you can see the starch kind of thickening that last bit of sauce. Cooking pasta is all about seeing the sauce through the pasta. That's what a lot of people never get to. You want to have it clinging. You want to have that pasta kind of, the sauce stick to the pasta, but you don't want it to be, really, I don't know, for lack of a better word, too sticky. You don't want the sauce to be too tight, because the butter fat will start to break, or the butter will separate, and then you'll have kind of an oily pasta. So then your really good pecorino, and then again, really simple pasta. 4 ingredients, but it's all about the quality of each one. Finish it with a little olive oil, and that's that.
Thank you so much for joining us for the local feed. For more food, fun, and farming, visit us online at wmht.org/localfeed. See you next time.
Funding for the local feed has been provided by your contribution. Thank you, and the following. For more than 30 years, CDPHP has provided healthcare coverage in upstate New York while working with local communities to encourage preventive care, healthy nutrition, and an active lifestyle. CDPHP, a plan for life.
Field Goods, local produce delivered weekly to workplace and community locations, helping people change the way they eat while supporting small sustainable farms. Field-goods.com.
At M&T Bank, we understand that the vitality of our communities is crucial to our continued success. That's why we take an active role in our community. M&T Bank is pleased to support WMHT programming that highlights the arts, and we invite you to do the same.
The Troy Waterfront Farmers Market, bringing nearly 100 local farmers and fresh food vendors every Saturday 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. year-round in downtown Troy, supporting local farmers and food producers in and around the capital region. Closed caption support provided by